Dear student, I want to show you now two group of muscles. So we're going to discuss the muscles of the arm, the flexors, and the extensors, right? So I'm going to start with an approach from the outside in, meaning first I'm going to block in the general volume of the upper arm as a cylinder, as we have seen already in a previous class, and the forearm, like that crossbreed between a conical cylindrical shapes and a 2x4. And then I'm going to carve out the muscle out of that. So upper arm with the shoulder, the volume of the shoulder, the forearm with the main volume of in this case, the extensor, because I'm going to show you the arm from the outside, this dorsal part in here, this portion in here of the forearm. So in here I have my hand, and as I draw this, I want to take care of the proportion relationship. So this is going to be longer than the forearm a little bit, see that, and the hand, of course, is going to be shorter than the forearm. So now what I do, I block in the main volume of the muscle. So starting above with the deltoid, right? So this is the anterior, that's the pectoralis here, the face is directly this way. That's the back, right? The deltoid is going to come down from the top of the head of the humerus, which is going to be right here, right? Just above the head of the humerus, down halfway the length of the upper arm. It looks a lot, but it's really what it is, right? So now the anterior portion of the deltoid will be a little bit straighter, coming down like this, right? The posterior portion, because it was over the scapula, is going to move back a little bit more. So from here, then it moves forward, and that's the shape of the deltoid, okay, more or less, with a good approximation, right? So that is the portion that is on the side of the deltoid, and that's the posterior side of the deltoid. So now from the lower point of the deltoid, I trace a line, right? I hope this is visible, but let me mark it a little bit darker here, right? Actually, now that I've drawn the basic shape, the stereometric volumes of the arm and upper arm like this, let me mark them a little bit more so you have time to draw it accurately with me. What I'm going to do as I start defining the muscular volume, I'm going to switch to a color. So we see the difference between the stereometric rendition and gradually the more and more organic rendition. So the deltoid, as I already mentioned, is a shape of the delta. I think delta means triangle in Greek, right? So this portion here, we're going to have the pectoralis, and this portion is going to have the scapula, etc. So just to give you an idea of the position, that's the neck, right, here, and that's the head, right? Makes sense? So now this portion moves back because over the scapula. So that's the deltoid here, right? And this is going to be now the upper arm, clearly. So starting from the lower part of the deltoid in here, I'm going to come down with a straight line that divides the upper arm in two equal halves, more or less. We just need to have a good approximation. As I reach the lower third, see that from here to more or less the lower third, the lower quarter of the upper arm, I'm going to take a sharp turn to the front and then a sharp turn to the back, going here at the base of the upper arm. So now dividing, basically it's an upside down Y, see that? So dividing the upper arm like this now permits you to identify two specific muscle groups. To the front here, I'm going to go more organic now and make it a little bit bigger, right? Make this form a little bit bigger. To the front here, I'm going to have the volume of the flexor of the arm, right? The upper arm, which is going to be the bicep brachii and the brachialis, right? So this is the bicep brachii. Okay, and this one under is the brachialis. Actually, let me erase this little smidget of mistake that I made here. Okay. And the brachialis. So basically, the bicep is over the brachialis. Okay. So I'm going to have three flexors of the forearm, right? One is the bicep, one is the brachialis, and the other one is the brachioradialis, which we're going to see in a little while. Okay, brachioradialis. Brachioradialis means that it goes from the brachii or arm, that's a Latin name for arm, brachio, radialis to the radius, which remember the radius is going to be on the side of the thumb, okay? Posteriorly here, I have now the tricep. The tricep means three heads, right? And this is going to be the lateral head of the tricep, and the upper portion of the tricep is going to be somewhat chunkier, more volumetric. The lower portion is going to taper down quickly like this, and will end up at the level of the olecranon. That's going to be the olecranon, right? The elbow bone, via the tendon. So that is the tendon of the tricep here like this, okay? So this is the lateral head. No, sorry, it's not going to fit in there. There you go. Lateral head tricep. So tricep with three heads, the lateral, the medial, and the long. The medial, we're going to look at that later on, but I don't see the medial except for a little portion in here that comes through from the other side, but don't worry too much about this. We're going to see this later. All of this is the lateral head. The long head is going to go up to the scapula, and from here, it's behind this muscle. From here, I see a little bit of the long head of the tricep being visible, like that, okay? I don't know if you can hear the squeaky door, but it's my cat has come and sneaks in, check if everything is okay, right? Okay, so now, that's the deltoid. That's the bicep brachii, that's the brachialis, that's the lateral head of the tricep, and that is the long head of the tricep. The medial head is not visible except for this little piece in here, right? But we're going to deal with that later, as I said. So now, you see how quickly the cylinder becomes much closer to an organic form if we know where to put if you know the proportional relationship, all right? So now, the forearm here, as we already remember, we mentioned this already, the forearm has an area here that is a little bit more volumetric, like this, okay? And the lower portion is going to be a 2x4, like that, okay? So this is going to tend to be flat, and this gradually develops a volume a little bit more, right? Okay. Let's keep going now. So we have blocked in the muscles of the upper arm, right? You can see in bicep brachis, brachialis, and brachioradialis being flexors. They flex the arm, the forearm upward like this. And then we have seen the extensors of the forearm, the tricep group. So the tricep is made up of the lateral head of the tricep, the long head of the tricep, and the medial head of the tricep, which we have mentioned, but I didn't go into. So now, let's see now the muscle of the forearm. We can identify two main volumes for our aesthetic purpose, artistic purposes, right? So one is the well, let's start from the longer volume of the extensor of the fingers and of the carpus. Here I will have the olecranon. I'll show you the olecranon. This is the olecranon, right? The bump in the elbow, right? The olecranon. And when I have my arm extended, the olecranon creates a bump that is at the same level as the lateral condyle, actually epicondyle, right? This is the lateral epicondyle, this is the medial epicondyle, right, of the arm. So basically, medial epicondyle, just that little bump we have in here, no? And then the lateral epicondyle is back here, right? You see that bump here. That's the olecranon, okay? So, so now, with the arm extended, I'm going to have a bump in here, olecranon. And pretty much at the same level, the bump of the lateral epicondyle. So the lateral and medial epicondyle belong to the humerus. The olecranon belongs to the ulna, okay? So starting from, let's start just below the medial, lateral epicondyle, right? We have a volume of muscles that we're going to examine later on. The together, let's say 3 muscles in here, right, that go down along the forearm like this to the fingers and the carpus. So these tendons in here will go down to the fingers and to the carpus here, right? So it means that they will extend. Imagine I have strings like this, right? If my string goes here to the carpal bones, if I pull, I extend the hand, right? If my tendon go down to the finger, I am gonna extend the fingers, right? So this group of muscle in here is made up of the extensor of the fingers, and then extensor of the pinky. Let's call it pinky, right? The real name is extensor digiti. Digiti is the Latin name for finger. Minimi. Minimi means small one, right? Like Austin Powers. And then all these names are written in the book, so you can look them up in the book. And then next to it here, the last muscle in here is the extensor carpis ulnaris. So I'm going to show you later a method to remember all these strange names, right? So I established, therefore, this long volume here, tapered, chunky in the upper 2/3, let's say, of the forearm, upper half, etc. And as I move down, it becomes flatter because it becomes tendinous, right? So this muscle here develop, they form in the upper part of the forearm, right? This is going to be the volume of the forearm, like, And as I move toward the insertion away from the origin, this form here will become flatter. This form here that is muscle here is flesh will become tendinous, so will become flat, right? So now this tendon will go to the carpus and to the fingers. Now let's maintain this as just one big form. So we have now again the extensor of the fingers, more or less here. Now I break it down in its components, right? This big volume of the extensors, I'm gonna break it down into its component. Then I have the extensor digiti minimi, which is a thin, long muscle. So the pinky means that the pinky has two tendons. It had its own muscle, and so a tendon coming from its own muscle, a tendon digiti minimi, and a tendon coming from the extensor digiti communis, the common extensor of the fingers. The last muscle here is the extensor carpi ulnaris. So this volume in here instead, right? There's not a volume here on the forearm in here like this. So let me block in a little bit now the profile of the arm, and later I'm going to add more muscles here, right? So this form here instead is created by the volumes of the brachioradialis, right? Which is this upper muscle that starts in the lower the lower portion of the upper third, of the upper portion of the lower third of the upper arm here, right? So here, this muscle, the brachioradialis, will go down here to the end of the radius, right? So you see how the name of the muscle gives away its origin, brachii or arm, and radialis or radius of the radius, right? So it goes from the brachii to the arm to the radius, right? That hence the name. And the tendon is going to be thin here and long and ends up here, which means here, right? Not to the back, not the front, but right here at the end of the radius, okay? So this muscle in here is not connected with the hand, it is connected with the forearm, flexion of the forearm. So these two muscles in here below, this volume, the remaining volume here is created by the extensor carpi radialis longus, because it starts higher, okay, and extensor carpi radialis brevis, or short. So this is two muscles, one here, I'm going to make it a little bit more specific now, and one here, but these two muscles in here, the tendon develops fairly high here, will go down, the tendon will go down to, so let me define a little bit better the portion of the radius that we see here and the portion of the ulna that we see in here, right? So this tendon will go down past the radius onto the carpus. So remember when we did the hand, this is the carpus and that's the metacarpus. So these tendons will go down here and here, longus and brevis, right? So once I identify the volume of the carpus as this like a nice oval shape, right, of the carpus, the wrist, then I can position the two tendons of the extensor carpi radialis longus here at the base of the first metacarpal bone, actually second metacarpal bone, and then here at the base of the third metacarpal bone, right? So first metacarpal, second, third, fourth, and fifth, right? All right, so now the tendon of the extensor of the fingers will go down to the fingers. 4 tendons, because later, so they go to the second, third, fourth, and fifth, not to the thumb, because the thumb has its own extensor and abductors. So we're going to see that later. So I've seen the pinky has 1 tendon coming from the extensor communis, common, and 1 coming from its own muscle, digiti minimi. See, the muscle, the fingers that are at the extremities need more mobility, right? So they need more muscles in a sense. So this last muscle here is the extensor of the carpus, or the carpi, because it goes down to the carpus here, right? But on the ulnar side. So that's this complex name tells you what the muscle does. Extends what? The carpus. From where? From the radial side, extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis, or from the ulnar side, extensor carpi radialis, ulnaris. And there's only one, so we don't need to specify long or short, longus or brevis. At this corner here, there is a neglected but beautiful little muscle, and it's called anconeus. A little form that goes from behind the condyle here, down to the radius. And this muscle extends and stabilizes the forearm. So here, most likely, I would see the ulna here and here, right? So typically, with the arm seen on the side like this, here I would see the muscle from the other side, the flexor. So remember, these are the extensors, right? I'm going to see the flexor. So because the flexor are big volumes, no? So they will go past the margin of the ulna, visible in here, no, on this side in here, but then it will disappear behind the ulna because it goes to the palmar side. So I see this one here is going to be the volume of the flexor of the fingers that eventually will go behind the ulna to the palmar view, right? So now let's see quickly how the muscles can be simplified as just simple lines, right? And that's going to make it easier to understand this jumble of muscle, because there's more muscle underneath here. I just spare them to you, okay? But this being said, you can read all about these muscles, have more examples about how to build the forearm and back of the arm, etc., by reading on the book on page 169, and then the sequence of the layering of the muscles. So this is going to be for the side view, similar to this, but slightly different approach. And then see all the layers of the muscles of upper arm and forearm seen from behind, from reading from page 145 to page 149, right? So now this is the humerus, right? And as seen on the side like this, that on the side like this. So the humerus like this, the hand is now extended like this. See that, right? So I see the bump of the condyle, the bump of the olecranon here, right? And the capitulum, the little bump in here of the radius, right? And now these two bones are going to be parallel, right? Like this. The radius widens up as it moves toward the hand. I think we discussed this already in the first two lessons here. And the ulna will instead do the opposite, starts thicker and will end up thinner, right? So the hand is going to be mostly in contact with the radius, if not completely. And now in here, that's why, by the way, this bone just sticks out like that. Because this is a tendon. Otherwise, there would be a big gap in here. There would be a big gap in here, but we had tendons in here that close the gap. And of course, we would have contacts, you know, between this portion of the articular faces of the carpal bone and the distal articular face of the radius. So there would be contact, but still, there is not much. The surface of that articulates with the carpus is mostly from the radius, right? Okay, so okay, arm, hand here, and so now let's do this. Let's look at. See, the lateral side of the humerus here has a thin, like, blade of bone, right? And the brachioradialis will start here at the lower third. See how more or less lower third here. So where this portion starts widening up, that's the point where the brachioradialis starts. So brachioradialis will start from here, right? So we see the brachioradialis start from this portion here, more or less here, right? The upper portion of the lower third of the lateral side of the humerus. Wow, lots of stuff. Okay, and ends up here at the styloid process of the radius. So it will do this. Okay. Here. So brachioradialis, flexor of the forearm. Below here, in this area here, I have the extensor carpi radialis longus, and then this will go down at the base of so this is the space in between, right? Here, and here. That's the finger. So that's, and this is the first metacarpal, belong to the thumb. Down at the base, if not directly onto the metacarpal bone, at the base of the second metacarpal bone, or the carpus, right? They call it extensor carpi radialis, so the extensor of the carpus via the radius. Then below this, I have the extensor carpi radialis brevis, the short one, because it starts lower. And this will go down here, to here, right? To the third. So this is the second metacarpal, this is the third metacarpal. So I guess we should really call it extensor metacarpis longus and brevis. But you know, don't go there, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna have just below the condyle here, around the condyle, over the condyle, around the condyle, I have now the extensor digitorum, the communis here, that goes down from here, down to the fingers, right? And then next to it, the extensor of the digiti minimi, another one down here, and eventually the extensor carpi ulnaris, so that will go down to the carpus via the ulnar side. I don't know if you can see much from this because I realize it's a little bit confused, but as I was doing it, you could see my rationale behind that. So let's move on and let's check out now the arm in a flex position, right? So if I start with the cylindrical shape, and the arm now is positioned like this, right? Like this, okay? So I'm going to have a cylindrical shape of the upper arm, and here the 2x4, flat 2x4 shape of the arm with the hand down like this, right? And as I flex the arm, what happened is the two bumps, see that? The two bumps that were at the same level, the two bumps of the condyle, sorry, epicondyle and the olecranon are now different positions. So now this is lower and that is higher. See that? See what happened here? That gets lower and that gets higher, like that, right? So I'm going to end up with the olecranon here and the bump of the epicondyle here of the humerus higher. So we've seen how this group of muscles in here, the extensor of the fingers and of the carpus ulnaris, starts at the condyle here and a little bit behind, below, and it goes to the head. So let's start with this grouping here, right? Here, here, right? This is one group. Let's see if I can color it, maybe, right? And this will go to the fingers, as we have seen, and to the carpus via the ulna. And here I have the little bump of the ulna, right? Here, I feel the bone there, okay? So this muscle in here will have an elongated form that gets eventually flatter as I move toward the hand because it will become tendon. So this is the main muscular volume, and that's the tendon. Up in here, instead, we have seen at the lower third here, I have the brachioradialis and the extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis. This muscle in here will develop a chunky form in here, right? And these muscles being the extensor carpi radialis, longus and brevis here. And then we'll go down to the base of the metacarpal bones. The brachioradialis instead is a flat muscle and start higher and come down like this, flat, like fettuccine basically, and it come down like, but much wider and made out of meat. And then it comes out over these muscles that are chunky, and it picks up the form like that. It goes over. So the brachioradialis per se does not have much volume. It's fairly flat. But so in here, you don't really see it because it's flat. As it moves down and goes over a little bit, the extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis, then it increases their form, and there's an augmentation of this portion of the muscles at the level of the elbow, right? So now this muscle here will go down with the tendon, develop fairly quickly to the radius, right? So here. So now I have all these neat muscle groups, right? Where I have here the extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis, right? And let me see if I have it darker here. And here, the extensor of the fingers and of the carpus ulnaris, right? Because that's the ulna, so let's ulna. And radius. I'm repeating these things as I go quite a few times because you might have missed it. There's so much, you know, in an art, there's so much that I think repeating, it's good. So, and then, well, let's see if I have another color for that. Should have, you know. I want a nice yellow, got an orange, that will do. So, and this is the brachioradialis, right? Like this. So let's see what happens now if from this position, right, like this, right, we do this, right? We do this. So now what happens is this is the cylinder of the upper arm, and that's fine, we got that. But you see how now this gets flat. It's not double up like this, it's flat, right? So now from here, I'm gonna have my 2x4 here like this, flat, right? Much flatter. And here, I still have the olecranon. Here, I have the epicondyle. That olecranon, epicondyle. Here to the front, I have the beginning of the radius. Remember radius, thumb, right? And but I don't see the radius because it goes behind the ulna, right? So the bump that I have in here is going to be the ulna. My hand now is going to be here like this, right? With, remember, the ulna is on the pinky side, right? So it's going to be the pinky, and that's going to be the thumb on the other side, and this is going to be the other fingers, right? That's a thumb, right? So that's my, it's a chubby pinky, but it's a pinky nonetheless, right? Okay, like that. Makes sense? So now what happens in here is I'm going to have these muscles going, starting always from the same place. They're going to start, the muscle of the extensor of the fingers, they're going to do this. They're going to come out from here, right? And then they're going to go here to the back of the hand because they have to go to the tendons, right? So from here, they're going to go to this, become tendinous. Actually, maybe this is a little bit too chubby here. It's not going to be that chubby. Let me sorry. Right. This muscle develops in here like this, and then become tendinous, thin, and then from here, it will do this. You have to wrap over, right? Makes sense? Over. Is to go from here. Let me see if I can show the whole thing. From here, they're gonna go over here like this to the fingers, right? So now here I see that's the ulna. I feel the bone in here. No, we feel the bone. If we touch here, we're gonna feel the bone for a while. And actually, in fact, the ulna is going to be, you can feel it pretty much all the way down to the olecranons. It's not going to be a straight bone, so you're going to feel all the ulna here, right? And so these are going to be, we've seen the extensors of the fingers, right? And here like this, right? Here, now I have the brachioradialis and externus-carpi-radialis longos and brevis. So what they do, they have to go where? They have to go to the radius. So they have to wrap from here. The brachioradialis will get to go behind here. I don't see where it goes. It has to end up here, right? So imagine now the ECR L and ECRB, extensor carpi radialis longos and brevis, will have to go on the other side of the hand here, but with the hand like this, I don't see it, right? So there is some sort of wrapping action in here. See that? So these two muscles here will go 1 and 2 up to here, and I don't see them. They disappear behind the thickness of this muscle in here. And the brachioradialis will do the same thing here, right? I'm exaggerating the height of this a little bit, but, you know, because this has to go to the radius on the other side. Makes sense? So you're going to feel this kind of wrapping of these forms over the forearm, okay? So let's see what happens if we color it a little bit. So we have the, that nice right with it here. The extensor carpi radialis longos and brevis, which I'm going to color with just one color, right? One form here. And wrapping over the extensor digitorum, extensor digiti minimi, extensor carpi ulnaris. I'm not going to subdivide this, but you know these are 3 muscles, right? Remember, extensor of the fingers, extensor of the pinky, extensor of the of carpus ulnaris, right? So here I had the brachioradialis, right? That will also wrap over these volumes in here, and if you look at, try to get picture of this. Put your arms in front of the mirror, look at them, twist them. If you have, or if you find a model with very, very low body fat, because otherwise these muscles tend to be disguised by the fat, and you're gonna start seeing this wrapping around. Or look at picture of athletes. So now we see this is the ulna, right? This is the ulna, right? And this is the olecranon, the bump. This is the condyle. So we're going to see now here the flexors visible from behind the ulna, and the flexors are going to develop their own volume in here like this. And that is the group of the flexors. So the flexor, we can color them purple. So this is a position where I can see flexor of the forearm, the brachioradialis, extensors and flexor of the hand, extensor of the hand and flexor of the hand. All I see a lot of muscle. The ulna here in between is going to be the bone that separates the extensors from the flexors, right? So what I would like you to do, guys, is take photographs of forearms and arms in different positions, different poses, and copy them. Try to maybe copy them as they are, right? And as realistically as possible in various positions. And then identify the landmarks, the condyle, the olecranon, the distal portion of the region ulna, and put tracing paper over your drawing, and try to identify the muscle. At first, just as main volumes. Then, if you can, all the muscle. But just drawing the main volumes is probably the most important thing, because what happens at this level here, there are so many little muscle twitching, etc. It's going to be really hard to identify them. What you want to identify is these main volumes. Okay, so as I mentioned before, read from page 145 to 149, and then 169, where you can repeat the exercise on page 169, which is something similar to what I showed you today, but it's a progression. See that? It's a progression of going from stereometric to gradually subdividing the form, specifying the form, and end up with an organic description of the arm.